glad you did.
I'm John Bird from Little Caesars Pizza. Our family and everyone at Channel 9 wish you the best this holiday season.
The holiday season means different things to different people. Let's all share this special time of year in peace. I'm John Foreman of Foreman & Clark. Happy holidays.
Hi, I'm Chuck Nadler. During this very special season, all of us at Arby's Restaurants hope you take the time to brighten the heart of a child and thank those who make your life worthwhile.
This is KMSP TV, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Live from Champs in Minnetonka, K-Fan and KMSP Sports presents Sports Fan Sunday. Now, Eric Nelson and Jim Gilliland.
Thank you very much. Welcome to our first Sports Fan Sunday. I'm Jim Gilliland, a regular on KMSP television, and as you just heard, joining me is my co-host for Sports Fan Sunday regularly, Eric Nelson of KFAN Radio. And for those of you who aren't acquainted with the all-sports station in the Twin Cities, they've been going for about 4 months now. Making progress, Eric?
4 months of a daily barrage of sports scores, stats, and guests, and trying to appeal to the sports junkies out there.
Good. We're looking forward to working together and entertaining some of you fans, along with our panel of sports experts here, guys who grew up as sports fans and are now cultivating that particular interest and getting compensated for it. Hey, what could be greater? Let's introduce everybody to you right now quickly. On my far right, Dan Barrero, sports columnist for the Minneapolis Star and Tribune. Dan.
Good to be here.
Welcome. Mark Zelinovich.
4 months and still employed.
Sometimes known as Z, often known as Z. Still employed, he's proud of that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Never one at a loss for words.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on television.
Eric, who's that fellow you got with you?
Well, I guess you're kind of saddled with this guy about 5 days a week. Perry Williams, sports director.
I know, the experts things here, I think it's a little misnomer already. We did have a table with a bunch of ladies. They all left before the show started. But we're looking for a lot of fun on Sports Fan Sunday as we go along. See what develops.
By the way, I called the all-psychic line just a few minutes before the show. She said Bafo.
She said they're going to take off.
Bafo numbers.
I assume big.
And let me say this, too. We have a special guest tonight. Thurl Bailey, the newest Minnesota Timberwolf, will be with us later in the show.
We'll look forward to visiting with Thurl Bailey. We're going to start out right with our front page story, and this week, of course, the Viking game and the happenings around the Viking Ball Club this week. Jerry Bird's announcing that he will not be back next year, making the announcement before somebody could tell him he wasn't coming back next year. I guess it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that Bernsey, great a guy as he is, was not going to be back with this ball club next year, at least as the head coach. So, I'm wondering what kind of move Roger Hedrick is going to make. We don't know anything about his football background. His moves have been limited so far in the driver's seat there. We do know that he used to work closely with Mike Lynn and little else, Eric.
Well, I think a lot of people are wondering who's in charge of the Minnesota Vikings. Roger Hedrick has said this will be his decision, and yet some of the other people like Mr. Polad, Mr. Irwin Jacobs, Wheelock Whitney have said, wait a minute, we want to have our hand in who we're going to hire as the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. But I do think that this franchise needs to go out and get somebody who's won before and somebody that can put some people in the seats, because they had 10,000 no-shows at their last home game, and you can't blame the weather and you can't blame the opponent. It mattered. Barry Sanders and the Lions were in town that week. I think the Vikings right now are sagging in the eyes of the Twin Cities sports fans.
I think the people in South Bend at the University of Notre Dame did Viking fans a huge favor. I think that would have been a public relations disaster. You go about anywhere in town, and most of the fans here, at least the people we talked to, it seems, they didn't want to see Lou come back here. Lou wants to stay at Notre Dame. He's 59, whatever he is right now, or late 50s. Let him stay there and get that 5-year contract. It seemed like the only people were the so-called brotherhood that wanted to see Lou come back. And I don't think most of the fans, I don't think many of the players really want to see Lou Holtz come here.
The weird thing was I didn't understand what the fascination was with this guy. I mean, he failed, what, 15, 16 years ago at the pro level. He was, you know, he's a very good college coach, but it's like, why are some people in this town so fascinated with Lou and bringing him back? I mean, he was an abject failure the last time with the Jets, and he's been out of pro football for, 16 years. So look, bring somebody in who has something to do with the pro game.
Yeah, and I understand too that he's got an opportunity to coach the first Vatican team. So.
Well,
They call. He's got a clause in his new
They're increasing the
contract.
skids at the gateway.
If they call, he can leave
Now,
to do that.
there are some who swear that he has another clause in this contract, that the clause gives him a way out to coach the Minnesota Vikings if he's ever offered that position, but I don't think we're going to see that, at least in the immediate future.
I'm a little disturbed, though, about getting back to Bernsey, kind of how he went around this whole thing. You know, he's not going to talk to the media, and a lot of media is to follow, this bad publicity. Well, he got a shot as a head coach of the National Football League, and you know, not many assistant coaches at his age do get that chance, and he had an opportunity. I think whether it's his situation or the players, maybe there's certainly blame to be passed around, but to kind of come out and say, well, it's the media's fault, and a lot of the fans' fault, well, they got to look at themselves, I think, and this has been one of the big problems of this whole team in the last few years anyway.
He has backtracked a little bit in the interviews I've heard since he made the announcement that he's not coming back, saying, hey, you media guys aren't so bad, and kind of
Maybe
soothing
got out
the
of
waters
system.
a little bit.
And again, I don't think this is one of the tougher media towns in the National Football League. I think in a lot of ways he was treated with kid gloves, and a lot of people at this table may think that this came a year too late, that something should have been done a year ago, and that the Vikings, even though they won tonight, beating Tampa Bay, which has only won twice, are only 7-7, and it will take something from the Vatican for them to make the playoffs.
Well, and he said he didn't want to talk to certain members of the media any longer, which I found strange, because they'd pretty much been nice to him when he was an assistant coach, and the fact that he proved incompetent as a head coach shouldn't mean that he shouldn't talk to him. And now you go in the locker room, you gotta like use a hand puppet to ask questions.
Well,
What are you gonna do, Bernsey?
what I don't like is this attitude, like you said, that his friends are saying, well, Bernsey just had enough of the bowl. There's just too much nonsense. There are too many things going on. It's like, hey, as you mentioned, he wanted this job. He had a good opportunity. It didn't work out. I don't think he's got anything to feel bitter about. I mean, I don't think he did a particularly good job, but this sort of Nixonian thing he's in now where you won't have Bernsey to kick around anymore. Hey, this is part of the job. Deal with it or get out. You know, that's part of the deal.
And he's acting as though that's a negative.
Yeah, that's right.
I did hear one comment, and it was on KFAN, if I may name drop it.
I like
Yes, you can.
Oh, boy.
That he did with
And you
Larry
will often.
Fitzgerald, where he said that he didn't hold any grudges. That the one thing he wanted to leave was that one of his assistants should take over because he wanted, for the sake of continuity.
Yeah, great.
Who wants this
get things going so
continuity?
they wouldn't have to start from scratch. And I guess we can attribute that to just trying to take care of his
If he
friends.
says
but
assistant, he's probably talking about Tom Moore, I'd imagine, but
I
I don't think
think
there's a lot of
anyone's not gonna happen.
enthusiasm.
taking
Well,
that seriously.
and I still think they need to get a guy in here who's going to excite people. I mean, I've been pushing Bill Parcells on the radio show. David Huffman, Chad Hartman want to fit me with a straitjacket. If I have the decision, that's the type of guy I go after. But I don't think the Viking brass will, because that's not their type of guy. They don't want a wave maker. They don't want to give up a lot of control, and that's what it'll take to get a Parcells.
That gets back to the original premise, though, of who is Roger
Well,
Hedrick,
and that's-
and where is he? I mean, do hamburgers and pizza dough qualify you to make decisions on the National Football League?
Well,
I
I mean,
guess so.
we now have two franchises in this town that are doing the most illogical thing possible at the top. The people at the top making the decision on hiring coaches and making trades have absolutely no background in their sport. Bob Stein with the Timberwolves, who's trying to learn it, but has no background, and Roger Hedrick, who I guess looks at scouting reports. I don't know, but I mean, why is it illogical for these people to see the importance of getting somebody in charge who has a background in their sport? I mean, that's how a Hedrick, to me, can exercise his authority. And clearly, I mean, from what I'm hearing, the ego is too big there to where a guy like I don't think they can get Parcells, by the way. I don't think it's realistic. But
And it's the money, too, with Parcells. That's another situation.
but authority is part of it. You're right, and I don't think Roger wants to give up that much authority, just like Bob Stein didn't want to give up very much authority with the Timberwolves.
And I think it's part of this new era we're seeing in sports, Dan, where it's not just football people or baseball people who are making decisions. It's bankers, lawyers. It's the bottom line people are looking at now. And I think that's unfortunate. I understand it's a business. These people want to make money. But I think you still got to have people who have football savvy up here, who the Bobby Beathards of the world need to be your general managers.
Well, that's
Or
how
the
you
Jim
make
Finks
money.
or whoever.
That's the whole irony. I mean, you make money by having successful teams, good teams, and then people come to see you play, and then everybody is happy, and more fans come out. And so, again, it is strange to me to see these guys not understand the importance of getting somebody in here.
So what do you say we get all these people together and go out and trash Viking headquarters?
The Vikings, they did have this kind of thing going maybe with Mike Lynn a little bit. He didn't really have a football background, came from a department store.
And look what happened.
And he's in Roger Hedrick's ear, too. You've got to believe that. I mean,
he's neighbors to him.
Hedrick was
These guys are going down to the
They
post.
tell Thurl Bailey what to do for the Bears game. Is who's still pulling the strings sometimes.
Mike Lynn was like getting extra mannequins for a department store in Memphis. I mean,
And remember this, the incentive to win in the National Football League is not huge. Yeah, everybody wants to win, but they're guaranteed a huge amount of television money, novelties, concessions. I firmly believe there are only about 5 teams in the league who will do whatever it takes to win. Broncos, Raiders, Redskins, 49ers. Those teams will spend the money. The rest of them, they just want to make the money. If they win, so be it.
Although the Vikings are the highest paid team in the National Football League, so it's not only a question of money, I think it's a question of talent and where they apply the money. And they're scouting certain, and we can trash this Herschel Walker thing to death about the lack of draft choice and the lack of depth in the team. But they are the highest salary team in the National Football League.
And of course, what we had been told was that was the reason they were underachieving. You'll recall, in the Lynn period was, hey, they're lowballing us too much, and look at the 49ers, they pay their money. Now, as you said, they're at the top of the list. And they're back to 500. We're supposed to be excited about that.
Well, let's go through perhaps and see who we like to come over in and take over the Vikings. It really is a question of whether Hedrick maybe wants to make a splash, wants to get a big name, or wants to just get somebody that he can sit on and control. There was Jim Suhan laid out a few candidates for us in the paper this morning. Bobby Ross at the top of that list. Anybody feel strongly, or?
I don't know about Bobby Ross. I see a guy with a little more NFL experience. Someone, in fact, called in and an idea too with John Makovic in Illinois. Here's a guy who coached Kansas City with relative success. Let go there. He's had good success at Illinois under some very difficult circumstances. He took on the team, albeit 6-5. He was going to another bowl game. A relatively young head coach, administrator, so he had NFL coaching experience and college as well. I think they like someone with some major coaching experience. A lot of people talk about Pete Carroll for the Jets. He's still an assistant. I think he may be a year or two away yet.
Eric, I know you mentioned Parcells.
Well, I like Bill Parcells because he's a proven winner. He's got a couple of rings, but I don't think the Vikings have the guts to go out and get him. I think he'd come here if you made the right package to him and gave him control, but I do have to agree. I think it's unlikely he'll get here. But I think you got to look at some of the staffs around the league of successful coaches. Under Mike Ditka, there are 2 guys who are ready to be head coaches. I think Vince Tobin, the defensive coordinator, and Johnny Rowland, the running backs coach of the Chicago Bears, is always mentioned. Those are 2 guys you might want to bring in. And I like Johnny Makovic. I covered him for a couple of years down in Illinois. He's done the dual role real well at Illinois, and he's got a great offensive mind. He coached under Landry, and he was the head coach with the Chiefs for a while.
Your side of the board?
I mean, Carroll, I could live with Carroll. I mean, there is a question. The feeling around the league is he might still be a year or 2 off. I want to just see somebody who's a little bit dynamic, who is not afraid to, shake this team up, which was one of Burnsy's biggest weaknesses. The guy just would not. If you get players privately aside, they'll say, they all love Burnsy, but there was never an element of fear with him. There was never any sense when he got upset that he meant it, or that anybody's job was really in jeopardy. And I just want to see somebody in here who is not afraid to shake things up and not afraid to, to get the attention of the team.
Hey, let's get John Madden back. Huh?
Well, I'm thinking, I'm pushing for George Allen.
Yeah.
I think he'd bring an element to the team that would still there be some continuity there because he's pretty much the same as Burnsy
I was going to say, yeah. He could motivate as much as Burnsy did.
He's not coaching the Saints, though, is he?
Yeah.
Well, but winning his living wouldn't apply then, would it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're going to, like you say, these big name guys, number one, they're not going to give them the money, but number two, these guys have got egos, and when they look at the cupboard there with no draft picks and no guys, why are they going to come here? I wouldn't come here.
I think the key here, too, is with this ownership situation being in disarray, the Hedricks, the Whitneys, the Jacobs, the Lynns of the world, they need to get in one room if they can find a room big enough to fit the egos. I mean,
without guns.
Naivety here.
With guns.
But they've got to start thinking we here and not I, because this is a crucial point with the football team. They don't have a 1, 2, or a 3 going into next year's draft. We hear about this fire sale that may take place, but again, who's going to be pulling and calling the shots on the fire sale? Who's going to be trading the Dolmans and the Carters and offering them to these people? I mean, they have to get together and have some sort of a game plan.
Well, I mean, again, I think the guy at the top is supposed to be making these trades,
But we asked you.
Jerry Reichow and Frank Gilliam haven't done a bad job of assembling personnel. I don't think. But where do they fit in? I mean, they do the drafting. We know that, but
We don't know where
when
they
it
fit.
comes to
I don't
trades,
think
we
they know where they fit
I don't
in.
think they were part of the Herschel deal.
But
Frankly,
the problem you get into, you keep bringing up Parcells. I mean, again, it's a good point. The cupboard's bare. The ownership situation's a mess. A guy like Parcells, he has a house in Florida already. They're a younger team. They've got more draft choices. I just don't think, maybe if you offer him $3 million a year, I don't think this is going to be high on his list, on Parcells' list. And, Bill Walsh is another name that comes up. Forget it. I mean,
No.
Bill wants to play tennis 300 days a year, and it's a little chilly this time of year.
Yeah,
could be
Parcells,
arena
he's going to Tampa, I think, if he
you
goes
can have a
anywhere.
half dozen jobs open too, and
Yeah.
then you have to really look at what's the most attractive. The Chargers, the Rams, those are two plums too in terms of weather and circumstances. A lot of young players and draft choices there too.
Here's
And
the
the
other thing to
Rams,
consider.
Georgia Frontiere.
Let's not get into that mess. If Parcells goes to Tampa, then all of a sudden you not only have to beat Ditka twice a year, or try to, then you got Parcells in the division. And he's an excellent coach. I'm convinced wherever he goes, he's going to win eventually. So it becomes all the more critical for the Vikings to somehow get the right guy.
The Lions too. You have to get them there.
Yeah,
improving.
10-4.
Looks like they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This division's going to be tough.
Jim Harbaugh told me one thing when the Bears were in town and beat the Vikings in the Monday night game. He said, we focus, so at the beginning of the year, focus just on winning the division. That's the key thing. Every time we play a division game, we know it's almost double the importance because of the significance of the standings. And it seems like the last few years, the Vikings, there's always been talking about the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, I think you got to take the first step first, and they've only had that one Central Division crown. That was in '89.
I want to check with you Illinois guys on Mike White. I kind of like him. I like what he did at Illinois. He got into some trouble with the NCAA, but I thought he was well-spoken and had a nice concept of offense.
Yeah,
He
certainly
knows the
had
pro game.
Yeah. Well, the pro game, it showed that at Illinois. He's doing a decent job, with the Raiders.
Where's he from? Did he be lured back?
He's from California.
Yeah,
California.
he was out at Stanford.
Yeah, he's a Bill. Actually, the rumor
He's a Bill
was that
Walsh
when Bill Walsh
protege.
gets his job, Mike White will be his offensive coordinator, wherever Walsh will be the head coach.
The other problem we get into, though, we've all sort of assumed that they're going to break up this team. They're going to make a number of trades and trade away some of the blue chip players. It's not that easy either in the NFL. That's another thing. I mean, to sit here and say, okay, yeah, they want to trade Chris Stolman for draft choices. They want to trade Joey, whatever. There's so few big trades done in this league, and people are so stingy about trading draft choices. I don't know that this team is going to look as different next year as some of us might like it to. For that reason, you can't just go out and give these people up for nothing in a couple of cases. And
I was concerned how they're going to move Ivan Caesar. That was
Well, and especially the other
concern of mine.
teams. The other teams in the league all know the situation, so they're going to just sit back and offer them 3s and 4s for guys that should bring 2s or maybe 1s.
Okay, maybe the next question then is, we've all knocked the current coaching staff. If the right guy came in here, given the current cast and maybe 1 or 2 additions, could he motivate this team to maybe, say, 10 or 11 wins? Because there's still a bit of a core there. And a lot of people would like to think that if somebody else was in charge here this year, they would be in a situation where they'd be contending for the division instead of basically playing out the string unless the miracle happens.
And the window of opportunity on this team, I think, is probably passed.
Yeah.
And although, I mean, again, you don't know. I would like to see, if you get a coach in the locker room who the players not only like but respect, maybe it changes a little bit.
Okay, we're going to wrap this segment up and come back and talk about another football coaching job that's open in town. Another supervisor position where there are some applicants. The Gopher situation is next when we come back on Sports Fan Sunday.
Thank you for that smattering.
That spontaneous.
The Three Little Pigs, Little Miss Muffet, The Cat and the Fiddle. All your favorite characters come alive in the unforgettable holiday classic, Babes in Toyland, starring your favorite funny men, Laurel and Hardy. The March of the Wooden Soldiers, the Attack of the Boogeymen, moments that become a part of our lives forever. Babes in Toyland, a world premiere in color.
Friday night at 7 on Receptive Channel 9.
Hot biscuits. Too bad you're cutting down on fat, remember? But hey, those were made with Bisquick Light. They have half the fat and all the taste. New Bisquick Light. Yes! We make it easy to say yes.
And now, a Russian dance in honor of my stroganoff. Hey, whoa!
You'll fall for stroganoff, too. Egg noodles, real sour cream mix, and your hamburger.
Hamburger helper.
Stroganoff.
Makes a great deal.
There's a new pet.
Chia.
Chia Pet, the pottery that grows. It's fun and easy. Soak your chia, spread the seeds, keep it watered, and watch it grow. And now grow a whole collection of fun with Chia teddy bears, puppies, kittens, rams, bulls. There's even a chia tree to keep your pets company. Chia Pets and Trees, the pottery that grows.
Chia Pets and Chia Trees are available at Snyder Drug, Walgreens, Pomida, and Kmart.
We're back here on Sports Fan Sunday, our inaugural edition. Eric Nelson, along with Jim Gilliland, and our panel of experts here, Mark Stalenovich, Dan Barrero, Perry Williams. We've covered the Vikings, guys, and their chaotic state, what with the search for a head coach now beginning. How about the Gophers, though? It's almost a mirror situation. Who's the AD? When's the AD going to be named? And then when's the head coach going to be named? I guess.
And who's in charge over there right now?
Who's the
Paul
guy,
Gill.
Roger Hedrick.
Jerry Noyce or Mark Dienart. Now, these seem to be the two names you're hearing for the finalists of the AD at the University of Minnesota. Comments?
Jerry Noyce is, I think, be an excellent selection. He, of course, former Gopher tennis coach, and has been running Northwest Swim and Racket health clubs for the recent years. And when he was at the University of Minnesota, he's a graduate of the U of M, played tennis there, coached their tennis team to relative national prominence. Well-liked throughout the community, did a lot of fundraising, basically had to sustain his own program when he was there. I think, and he was considered some years ago, but then the Marvin Harbaugh and the Timberwolves and the health clubs made it worthwhile for him to stay there. But I think it'd be a great opportunity, because I think also the current situation there, I think it needs some new blood. I think Dienart would do the job.
Jerry Noyce, I don't know, I've heard that Bob Stein is pushing for Dan Meinert to stay there. And I don't know why, if they're a friend of Jerry Noyce, and Jerry has worked for them faithfully for many years, why they don't want him to get the job if he's applied for it. I don't know if
the thing I don't understand is, and it's an unfortunate reality, but you're asking a guy to run a multi-million-dollar program, and he can't balance his own checkbook. And
you think that knocks him out of there?
He does for me.
I mean, I think it should.
Good night.
I mean, he's tried to explain that away, but you know,
that's a
pretty big. I mean, this is the way athletic departments these days. You know, we're talking about big budgets, $1 million budgets, and to me, that should knock him right out of the box immediately.
I mean, he can't go to Lunds and figure out how much he spent on a rutabaga, and they want him to run a college football.
And yet, in a way, Dan Meinert kind of auditioned for this job. He basically said goodbye to John Gutekunst. It was his decision. They say that he resigned, but we know that Dan Meinert was the one who suggested Goody go.
No, Goody had to go. I mean, and I refuse to believe that he was allowed to make that decision on his own. I got to believe that above him there'd have been disagreement on that, then they wouldn't have done it. But I mean, it wasn't a tough decision looking at the empty seats, looking how poorly, there was just no sense of improvement going on in the program. And I think even Goody understood that it was going to happen.
I don't know why some people did think they were shocked that this happened. Well, they shouldn't be shocked, because they did so poorly this year. And he said, a matter of economics. I mean, you look at those stands are empty when they're playing Wisconsin. The balance of the stands are Badger fans. And in a market like this, and I don't believe the thing, well, they have trouble, it's Minnesota, they have trouble getting people here. Well, they get people in Lincoln, Nebraska. They get people in, in University of Oklahoma, in Norman, Iowa City. I can't believe that this Twin Cities has to offer a young athlete. Very enticing.
And the competition factor, too, that you can't win because you've got all the pro sports here. You go to Seattle, The University of Washington football team excels with the Seahawks and the Mariners and the Sonics nearby. Miami, Houston, Los Angeles with SC and UCLA. It can be done. But again, you need the right people in the right places.
And the checkbook. Recruit a few more thugs.
Exactly.
And we'll be,
You got to pay the money.
ball.
Again, it's a matter of you're not going to get one of these heavyweight guys if you don't pay the cash. And they've got a president of the university who is not totally interested in the program, I don't think.
It sounds like he wants to continue the Rick Bay program. He's indebted to Bay, it seems at least in lip service, for getting the program out of the hassle with the NCAA. And that maybe he's setting up Minard, if not to be the athletic director, to stay in place as the lieutenant. Is that a fair situation to whomever they ask to come in and be the athletic director?
Could be, I don't know. But, you know, with the university, it's one of the funny things is that they have the ever-popular search committees. I think they have a search committee to find out who the search committees are and what they're doing, because we were told when Goody was fired that they have an athletic director in December and everything in place, maybe with football, the guy in January, and certainly the recruiting wars are heating up. They got to get on the stick here. And you look at a lot of other schools, they make a change, they go out and they hire someone within a week maybe.
You hire an athletic director who has a football coach in mind. Meanwhile, the search committee's already got it pared down to 3 guys, none of which he's particularly excited about. You got another whole mess.
You can only imagine what goes on behind closed doors with this search committee. You've got only a couple of former football players in there. The rest of the people are people in various heads at the university, and I'm sure you've got all sorts of wild suggestions. And like you said, it's the recruiting period now, and every day that they let go by, they're missing out because other coaches are saying, "Hey, don't go to Minnesota. Who's the coach?"
Well, you're not going to get a big name guy who's going to sit there to have to listen to listen to 3 search and screen committees, ask them 25,000 questions. It's just not going to happen that way.
What do you think of Tony Dungy's philosophy? He apparently has said if I have to apply, they're not interested in me. He wants them to come and get him. Meanwhile, Ray Perkins is...
Ray Perkins, good. Get him out of here. Tell him to stay down.
He's a wonderful guy, Ray.
The guys on the search committee, from what I heard last week, is they were in a closed room playing Twister most of the day. So.
Well, and they just
it was the holiday version,
well,
too.
It was,
that
but,
special Christmas edition.
Search committees just, down at Iowa when they wanted to hire Hayden Fry, Bump Elliott said, "This is my guy." He brings him up to the regents at Iowa, and they hire him. I mean, that's how you do it if you want the right coach.
I would like to see them get their hands on somebody who, if you don't get the real big name, which it's going to be hard to attract here, at least get someone who has built a program that was in a similar state, that has done it once and might want to move to a bigger conference. Mason's name has come up from K-State.
Yeah.
Even Bill Lewis, I don't know what Bill Lewis's situation. He's the coach, a young coach at East Carolina who turned them around. Very dynamic young guy, a guy who's been through it. And I would assume would like the idea of going to a bigger conference after being. How much more successful is he going to be at East Carolina? Somebody who's at least shown that they can start building a program from the bottom up and can make a move.
When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit of baseball. Meanwhile, the question has not been decided who's going to come first, the athletic director or the coach. Probably be talking about that one again next week. We'll be back in just a moment on Sports Fan Sunday.
There are 18,000 of us at Northwest that call Minnesota home. Minnesota is where we are promising to add more than 1,500 new jobs. It's here where we promise to base our operations well into the 21st century. It's here where we see a great future for Northwest and for all Minnesotans. That's what this is all about.
America's Best presents The Holiday Dilemma.
There's so many people to buy gifts for. Do we have enough money? I wish I had started sooner. I'd like something for myself.
America's Best has 35,000 designer frames. Cardin, Dior, La Roche, Carrera, many more. 2 pair, only $49.99, including lenses and exam.
America's Best contacts and eyeglasses for myself and my family.
While they last,
choose any 2 pair of designer eyeglasses complete with eye exam, only $49.99.
Breasted suits only $199.
At $199, these 6-button, hand-tailored, double-breasted suits are terrific value, and we'll press them forever for free. I guarantee it.
It happens on special dates.
My heart goes pitter-patter. What's the matter? Let's get at it.
Grabs my legs, throws me over his shoulder, and takes off running.
This is very suggestive.
And you can only get it on Love Connection.
Weekdays at 1 on Receptive Channel 9.
Welcome back to Champs in Minnetonka, Sports Fan Sunday. Eric Nelson along with Jim Gilliland and our crew of experts. I want to remind you a little bit later in the show, we're going to hear from Andy McPhail, the general manager of the Minnesota Twins. Gilly had a chance to chat with him earlier in the week. Right now, we're going to talk about the major league scene, guys. And earlier in the week, Bobby Bonilla got a little bit more coin in his pocket.
Big contract with the Mets. They threw in the Chia Pet for him.
Yeah, I was going to say,
that was the difference.
He's now bought Manhattan.
Bonus?
Unbelievable. If he's worth $5.8 million a year, Perry, what's a guy like Puckett going to be worth?
Well, you know, obviously, that's the standard now. I mean, I never blame an athlete for getting as much green as they can get. I mean, they have limited careers. If someone's going to pay you the money, you got to take it. Who's going to say, no, I'd rather play here for $3 million instead of here for 5 some?
Oh, I would.
You would?
Yeah.
You're just lucky you're still working.
But I'd take the $3 million.
But I think Puck would be one of those $6 million guys.
Well, this guy, I mean, the amazing thing about Bonilla is he had the guts to turn down, what, $4 million before the season from the Pirates, and there were a number of people who thought he was, you know, insane.
Yeah.
And look who's laughing now. And he, you know, I saw the quote. We saw the quote from him that his heart was.
Yeah.
He made his choice because his heart was in New York, and it's like, well, I could be persuaded that my heart.
He had to do what's best for his family. That's always one of the popular things these days. Watch out for your family.
How does baseball get itself in this spot when the TV ratings aren't as high as expected, so the next contract probably isn't going to be as lucrative? There's no competing league. They're just bidding against themselves. I know free agency has contributed, but 5.8, and these are some of the points Andy McPhail.
Look at the guys who are running it. I mean, the guys on top are generally very rich, old, white guys from a club where they sit around and stroke each other's egos, and this is like playing gin at the club for double points.
Plus, you have a situation, too, with baseball.
Reality.
The local contracts, TV contracts, someone like in the Yankees or the Mets, the Dodgers, and to some extent, you know, certainly the Cubs, millions and millions. It's a great inequity of the local broadcast revenue. They're getting compared to maybe Seattle, the Twins, Milwaukee, and so forth.
But we're now going to hear the cry, and we've heard it since free agency came into being, that the small market teams can't compete. But that's a myth, too, because a lot of the teams that spend the big bucks, the Angels, the Yankees, have been colossal failures many of the years. Look who just won the series, the Twins. The Braves were the team they played. These are small market teams. The Royals have a World Championship ring. The Cardinals have been very successful. So again, you still need that farm system and be able to bring players up. You need to make, I think, you know, occasional dabblings into the free agent market like the Twins did last year. But, you know, Bobby Bonilla is not going to guarantee the Mets.
If you're going to spend the money, spend it smart, like a Morris, Paleorulo, a particular need.
But that, you mentioned, you know, that means that the key guys in baseball now, outside of the 3 major markets, are going to be Bob Gebhardt, Jim Rance, those type of guys. Because if you don't pay them a nice salary and give them autonomy to develop minor leaguers that you can call up and pay $85,000, you have no prayer.
You know, the Bonilla contract seems insane, and we all agree on that. But to me, the ones, it's really the ones slightly underneath that are scary. The Brewers did Wegman.
Right. Bill Wegman.
Guy's career, you know, 51 and 51, I think, something like that. His career, he spent more time on the disabled list than he has innings pitched the last 3 years, and he just got $12 million or $11 million for 3 years or 4 years. It's just incredible. Yeah, exactly. It's the mediocre guys who are still able to command $3-4 million salaries that blow me away.
You could play right now for $2 million a year.
That's where it's out of hand. I mean, the Giants last year paid Bud Black a phenomenal amount of money. He was an average pitcher. I have no problem with the superstars making the money because that's basically who the fans want to come out and see. They'll pay the money to watch guys like that, but you're going to see it just continue to escalate. The next guy who's going to break the bank is going to be Danny Tartabull. Again, a very good player, but he's not the best player in baseball. He might hit Bonilla-type numbers as soon as this week.
Well, you know, the other day, the day the Bonilla thing was announced, I went into the Timberwolves practice and just kind of shoot the breeze with these guys in the contract, and I was talking to Tony Campbell about it, and he was saying, oh, $29 million. And he said, well, Dan, what'd he do? I said, well, he hit 18 home runs, brought in 100 runs. He goes, is that great? I go, not really. That's good, but it's really not. That's what's hilarious. I mean, Bonilla's a nice player. He's a hard worker. He's 29 years old, but we're not talking about a guy who is, you know, is a year in, year out been a superstar. No, not close.
What happens to the guys who are just contributors? The Twins are having a problem right now deciding they're making limited offers to Dan Gladden,
Al Newman,
Pally Rulo.
Those guys, yeah.
These guys who did contribute but are still in the $1 million plus category, or in that neighborhood, are being shelved now, apparently by the Twins, just because
it's almost in a weird way their own little salary cap that you see in the NBA. Okay, well, we're going to pay this guy more, but we're going to cut this guy back here, or just cut this guy entirely, which is what happens in the NBA all the time.
And it only takes one wacko owner to throw this whole thing out of whack. I mean, it looked like the Twins were going to have Jack Morris inked here a few days ago. All of a sudden, the Dodgers signed Tom Candiotti to some huge deal. Now you hear that the market's changed and the Twins may not be able to bid for Morris.
Yeah.
Well, guys like Morgan and Moore and pitchers like that are, I mean, give me a break. These guys have won 12 games in their lives, and all of a sudden they're $2 million pitchers.
If Morris can come in here, do what he did, lead the team to the World Series, profess happiness and serenity being in his hometown, pitching, and reaching the ultimate goal of winning the World Series and being the absolute hero, and still can't settle the next year, I think that really speaks badly for baseball and fan loyalty and any kind of loyalty.
You mean you don't believe Jack came here because it was his hometown?
You didn't trust
Well, he's an East Sider, though.
Jimmy's
So, I
the
mean, he's a St. Paul guy. He's going to bite into that.
Yeah. The St. Paulites stick up for each other.
Need to be a little more worldly, I guess, but it shakes your faith a little bit, and apparently Morris is going to go up for the highest bid.
I think they still have a shot at Jack. It is interesting, though, how players get into the ego thing of, I want, for the extra $200,000, they'll uproot themselves and go someplace else. They don't seem to take into consideration, do I like where I'm playing? Do I like my manager? Do I like the team I'm around, etc.? It's like for the ego satisfaction of saying, well, they're lowballing me by $200,000, so I'm going to have to take $12.6 million instead of $12.2.
And how am I treated by the media? That's another thing. You go in a city or the pressure of Boston or Philadelphia or certainly New York. Much different situation than is here.
And Bonilla, even though he says he thrives on dealing with the media, Bonilla's kind of a Puckett type of guy, always has the smile on his face. A good guy, we should emphasize that. But he'll get a far different look at how the media covers a baseball team than in Pittsburgh, where I think you've got two beat writers with the team, home and away. And it's just not a media menagerie like New York, where they come at you in waves and waves and waves, and they're looking for dirt. I mean, there's like 100 Dan Barreros behind the batting cage at every Mets game.
One behind every block, right? They're just ready to crawl out.
If Bonilla, it's a good. I mean, if Bonilla, he's a great guy. He's a happy guy, but I don't. And he's from New York, but I don't think he knows what he's into. I mean, look at Viola. I mean, Frankie was a New York kid who went back and was driven nuts by the whole situation. Has not pitched well there. The pressure is
fragile
bothered
psyche
him.
anyway.
Exactly, but that's again the point. He could have stayed here. I think they could have worked it out, and he was in a good comfort zone here. But again, the extra money, he got traded. But I mean, they didn't settle the contract before, and that little extra money. He decided to go ahead and, go on to New York.
Well, plus Strawberry, it helped, get Strawberry out of there, too.
Well, and then there are other factors, too. Like you mentioned, the city and the living conditions. Now Bonilla's going to find out what it's like to play right field with sniper fire. So that'll be, that's something else.
Get his CD player stolen once a week from his car.
Yeah. Pirate fans have to be a little bit in disarray out there with
Bonds
on in LA.
Yeah, winter meetings coming up. And
Andy Van Slyke was on at halftime of a basketball game I was watching last night and picked the Mets to win the division.
And don't forget.
But how many Pirate fans are there? I mean, you're talking about a team that couldn't sell out Game 7 of the NLCS. I mean, I'm sure there are some that are disappointed, but that's not a great baseball city.
Well, look, too, they're going to lose Mike LaValliere to the Twins, according to a lot of people.
If they can't sign Brian Harper, which is another story, he's evidently in that category. We're nearing the $2 to $3 million range in salary, and whether he's got competing offers or not, the Twins seem kind of lukewarm as to whether they want him
It's
back.
amazing. We have this conversation, say, 15 years ago, and we're talking about the winter meetings, and we're just thinking about trades You know, almost like we do in fantasy leagues now. Now we are talking strictly, can they sign this guy? How is this guy going to fit in? And it all boils down to contracts and money now. It's incredible.
The other thing about baseball, to me, that's different than, let's say, free agent signings in basketball is that, especially with pitchers, the difference in performance from year to year is so wild. I mean, from year to year, you do not know. You spend $12 million on a pitcher for 3 years. You don't know what you're going to get. With pro basketball players, it seems like you have a pretty good clue that year to year a guy's going to be a certain kind of player. But look at some of like you said, some of the free agent signings and the amount of money people have spent that have been complete washouts.
The Cubs have been classic in that.
Yeah.
Look at Danny Jackson last year, and of course they had more now.
Dave
See what
Smith,
happens there.
yeah.
Dave Smith put millions into that club last year. It's still struggling.
And they were continuing to spend. Of course, when you're owned by the Tribune Company, and you know, Jim Fry said it last year, it's easy to spend somebody else's money. When they signed the 3 guys, Bell, Jackson, and Dave Smith, they went out and signed Morgan again this year. The Cubs, apparently their philosophy is we're going to keep spending and spending and spending. But I think they've actually made some good moves by hiring Jim Lefevre.
Yeah,
they got
Tom
their front
Trevorhorn.
office
For a change, they did something right.
Maybe it's the passion of watching that World Series between the Twins and Atlanta. A great series and a great finish. Looking at where those two teams were in 1990 and everybody going, hey, we're almost there. If they can do it, we can do it. Spending whatever it costs, especially in New York, Chicago, LA.
Those 2 teams.
If you
watch
look
what's
at
going on.
It's 11.
The bread is done.
But you know, and that's the whole thing. Because if we're, again, a year ago at this time, we would never dream about saying the Twins and Braves. We'd be saying, gosh, look what the Cubs have done. The Dodgers get Strawberry. You know, these teams are going to be in the playoffs in this series. But hey, it doesn't guarantee anything.
Well, that's where I think you do have to give young Andrew a little bit of credit, because they spent some money, but they really did almost bargain shopping, relatively speaking. I mean, Chili Davis, by free agent standards, was cheap, and they went out and said, hey, we think Chili's still got some baseball in him, and they felt the same way as Jack. I thought Jack was pretty close to being through, and obviously it was wrong. I mean, the guy did the job, and he made a lot of his money on incentives. Maybe that's the way to do it.
And he's going to pile up another $10 million plus with a long-term contract as a reward. All right, we're going to hear from Andrew McPhail a little bit later on in our one-on-one segment. Stay tuned for that, and stay tuned next. Thurl Bailey of the Minnesota Timberwolves is here at Champs in Minnetonka and joins us for a little panel discussion and inquisition when we come back on the first Sports Fan Sunday.
From the wrong side of the tracks.
Your son has broken the law more than once.
To the top of the mountain. From petty crime.
Just give him another chance.
To genuine American heroes.
He's now broken a course record for the 3rd straight day. What does it take to make the Olympic team? This could just be the kid to bring us our first gold medal.
He's good, but he hardly fits the image of the U.S. ski team.
Dennis Weaver and Anthony Edwards.
I'm gonna smoke these guys.
A true story, going for the gold.
Wednesday night at 7 on Receptive Channel 9.
We're on our honeymoon.
You're eating oatmeal. You never ate mine.
This is oatmeal raisin crisp. Lisa showed me no other cereal has a delicious flake like this.
How nice.
Crispy flakes topped with a brown sugar and rolled oat crunch.
Really?
Mixed with raisins and almonds.
Oatmeal raisin crisp.
Taste it.
Oatmeal crisp, oatmeal raisin crisp.
Pretend I'm not here. I'm sorry. So sorry.
When spills are at their worst, Bounty's at its best. Compare Bounty to the next leading national two-ply paper towel. Bounty is quicker and thicker, so it's stronger. When spills are at their worst, Bounty's at its best. It's the quicker, thicker picker-upper.
Chi-Chi's introduces a whole lot of enchilada. 2 chicken, 2 beef for 2 chicken Supremas enchiladas, plus a hot fudge sundae. And that's a whole lot of enchiladas.
A celebration of food. What's for lunch at Chi-Chi's? Anything you want. Everything you want. Now, all you can eat. Just $4.99. Chi-Chi's Mexifest Buffet. For lunch.
Sports Fan Sunday continues here at Champs in Minnetonka. Eric Nelson, Jim Gilliland, the Z-Man, Mark Selenovich, Dan Barrero of the Star Tribune, and our special guest this segment, Thurl Bailey of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, Thurl came over from the Utah Jazz a couple of weeks ago on the Tyrone Corbin deal. Thurl, that road trip you guys just got off of, Seattle and then the Clippers last night, a couple of losses. This team seems to do well until about the final 2 minutes of a game, and then everything kind of collapses. Can you explain what's happening out there?
Well, first of all, being new here, from what I've noticed so far, I think my evaluation is just the fact that the team's kind of inexperienced in those kind of situations. I think that we have a breakdown, like in the Seattle game, they threw a trap at us, you know, and we just we were playing like not to lose instead of going for the win, you know, going for the finishing punch. But you know, there's going to be a lot of games like that, I can tell, you know, against really good teams, and we just need to find a way to pull them out in the end.
You're obviously making an adjustment, Thurl, from coming to a contender.
Yeah.
Climates, I don't know if they're that dissimilar, but coming from a contender with a lot of great players and players you played with for a long time to an expansion team where the expectations aren't, I mean, not that everybody's not a professional and working as hard as they can, but for you as a veteran ball player, maybe, you know, an ingredient or two away from getting to the finals, now you're here. I mean, I'm not trying to get you to express a negative opinion, but how do you adjust to that?
It's a difficult adjustment in that, you know, you spend 8 years in a place, in the basketball sense, you spend 8 years under a certain philosophy. You know, Jerry Sloan, defensive coach, you know, you spend 8 years with guys that you kind of gel with, John Stockton and Karl Malone, Mark Eaton. You get to know those guys really well, and all of a sudden, you know, you're not there anymore. And not that that's a bad thing, because I think for me personally, it was a good thing that happened. One, because I think that my role on that club was very limited, you know, and I think it was time, actually, you know, not that I would have asked for it, or, you know, because I enjoyed the guys, I enjoyed the team I was on, and anybody enjoys winning. But the fact that I think this is a point in my career where that change was necessary for me.
You've come to a city that's got all major sports and college, and you're coming from a city where basically the Jazz were the only show in town. Is that a disappointment to you, to all of a sudden be thrust into a situation where the sport is not the #1 attraction?
Not really, because now I get to go to pro football and baseball games.
Pro football, sort of.
No, I think it's nice. It was nice to be the only game in town there. We had really great fan support, but, you know, we have great fan support here. I think that, you know, there's certain give and takes, and there's certain things that come with the trade. One thing I was very, very pleased with was my reception here, you know, and, you know, I hope that lasts. It's been an adjustment for me, and I really haven't quite, you know, you have to get used to the entire change. You have to get to know the guys and what they like and where they like to come off picks and where they like to give you the ball and things like that. So it's taken me some time to really get to know Gerald Glass, or Pooh Richardson, and what they like, and for them to know where I want the ball, or you know, all the things about the game. So you want it to come right away, and sometimes you go out and you try too hard, or you rush things, and it just takes a little bit of time.
Thurl, you played with one of the great point guards in the league, obviously, in Stockton, a guy who, you know, is right at the top of the list. What does Pooh Richardson have to do to improve himself to get closer to, let's say, for people to start perceiving him on a Stockton level or close to it? I mean, you haven't been around long, but talk a little bit about what you see in him and what he needs to do maybe to step up a little bit, because at the end of games, it looks from here as if that's part of the problem, is that nobody is taking charge in the last 3 or 4 minutes. Nobody's making the right pass or calming everyone down to sort of, you know, set up the right play.
Well, I think in a lot of situations, especially the situation I just came from, you look for your point guard. You look for the guy who's out there, the quarterback who's handling the ball. You look for him to get everyone organized. You know, if something starts to break down, you know, I'm used to a John Stockton pointing here and pointing over there, telling me where to go. And I think maybe because, you know, Pooh hasn't really been in the league that long, and some players have the knack to do that automatically, maybe from college or what have you. But you know, that's what I look for when I'm out there. I think that you know, I'm used to just watching the point guard, just because, you know, one, I think it's, first of all, it's the coach, you know, and then it's the point guard who has the job to, you know, to put everybody in their places, especially at the end of a game. You know, I think maybe that's the thing that we need the most on this team, is for someone in that position, and hopefully Pooh, to know exactly what's going on everywhere, not just in his position, but in situations where they throw a trap at us and they deny him the ball. I mean, you have to go get the ball, you know, make sure you have the ball, and make sure everybody's in their respective places. But, you know, Pooh's a very talented player, and I'll take nothing away from that, but I think leadership is probably one of the things that we're lacking in those crunch times during the game.
People have talked about you coming in, being a leader with this Timberwolves team, because you've been around for a little while, a bit longer than most of the guys. But it's hard just to come in and say, I'm a leader, isn't it? I mean, don't you kind of have to earn the leadership mantle?
Yeah, you do. You really do. You cannot force leadership on anyone, you know, even though I think automatically the guys look at me and say, well, he's an 8-year vet, you know, he's been in the league for a while. But at the same time, I'm sure they're saying, well, he really knows nothing about this team yet. You know, doesn't even know the plays completely yet. And I don't want to come in and seem like, well, guys, I'm here to be a leader. I want to show by example first. You know, just keep their attitudes. I have a winning attitude. I mean, I think throughout my basketball career, from high school up until now, I've been a winner. And I think that hopefully I can bring some of that in the attitude of these guys. They already have it. I mean, the character of this team is really great. I mean, guys go out and go out to win every game. And it's just, right now, we're falling a little bit short of that. But we're playing really well up until a certain point. And hopefully, you know, my presence maybe in some way, you know, can spread among the guys. And a lot of guys, most of the guys really already have that. But we still have a young team.
Yeah, everybody's looking to the #1 draft choices. When the NBA is so new, we see Pooh Richardson come in, then Felton Spencer, now Luke Longley. Yeah. And these are the guys that people look for exciting plays from. And you were there once as a first-round pick,
yeah,
7th overall or whatever. Exactly. What was the adjustment like, the culture shock, the style of play or whatever, that how long does it take before you're really comfortable and
it's a good question.
Can be there? I know it varies with individuals.
Yeah, I wish I had the answer. I wish it was on the first day. But that's just not the way it is. I think the one thing is that the guys who've already been here, they've already had a certain responsibility with this team, whether it's to score or whether it's to come off the bench or whether it's to start. And in a sense, when I came to the team, I was thrown into that, you know, and it's possible sometimes you can shake up, you know, like Sam Mitchell right now is probably struggling a little bit with his game. And not that I may not have anything to do with that, but at the same time, I was thrown into a situation that may have changed something that he was used to doing. And, you know, I want to be a positive force for this team, and, you know, and we rely on the coach to make the right decisions and everything. But, you know, it's difficult to make that change. I think it's difficult for the team in one respect to have a new guy come in and have to teach all over again, and for me to have to learn all over again. I mean, I felt like a rookie actually in my first day of practice.
Now, you talk about starting off and fitting in. When you first went to the Jazz, Frank Layden was in charge of the program. And I think most fans recognize him as probably the funniest man in basketball. Yeah. I mean, did that help to have a guy whose personality was so different from most coaches in basketball? He had a sense of humor and he had a joy for life.
Yeah, that always helps. It definitely helps. It helps to relax the players, because people talk about the gap between coaches and players and owners and players and things like that. And, you know, in Utah, that gap was really shortened by the fact that the coaches made us feel like a family. You know, and Jerry Sloan was assistant during that time. So when he took over, it wasn't really a big change for us. You know, he was a player, a great player, and you know, his philosophies were basically almost the same as Frank's, except they were a little bit more defensive oriented.
Sloan, I assume personality-wise, though, could be pretty fiery. I mean, what are your impressions of Rogers' approach to what you've seen as let's say, compared to a Jerry Sloan?
First of all, he's first talking to him. Sometimes you can judge people not even by first meeting them, but by talking to him. He's really a laid-back guy, you know, really easygoing. When he has to, though, he can be a fiery person. I think in comparison to Jerry being a player and being the kind of player he was, you know, he still wants to play, it seems like, when he's coaching. In reference to that, I go back to the Detroit game when I think he and Rodman went at it. I mean, he ran out on the court, you know, it's like he was playing again. And that's the kind of guy he is. I mean, he's a fiery kind of guy, and that's what made him a great player. And I'm more getting to know Coach Rogers a little bit more now. And, you know, I think the thing about him is that he gets to know each player and the way he can be around each player. You can't be the same with every guy. And some guys need to be chastised a little bit to get them going. Some guys can't take that. You know, you have to know your players. But, you know, I feel really good, you know, being a player on the coach.
Another thing on that is the age of the hardcore disciplinarian over in the NBA. I mean, it just seems like more and more there are more and more what you would call players coaches than, let's say, in other leagues, that the taskmaster kind of guy is just not as successful anymore. Do you agree with that or not?
Well, in a way I do, because I've noticed with other teams and also with the team that I just came from, that, you know, you've got a lot of egos on ball clubs, you know, and there are a lot of players who show those at any time, you know, and it's hard for a coach to combat that, you know, because one, his job's at stake if that player doesn't perform, you know, so he has to be careful in that respect. And, you know, you look at different teams, and you look at the Chicago's, you look at Philadelphia with Barkley. You know, Barkley's going to say what he wants to say. He's going to do what he wants to do. You know, and how can you coach that? You know, I think that that may be the reason why it's kind of fading out, because of the superstar player and the superstar attitude.
Thurl Bailey fading into the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I'd like to welcome him to the Twin Cities and to Minnesota, and hope that he has a productive career here with Minnesota. Thanks a lot for coming down, Thurl, on short notice and after a long road trip. We'll be back to talk a little puck, hear from some North Star fans when we come back on the first Sports Fan Sunday.
This town needs a miracle.
Well, Creek is gonna live or die depending on this Christmas.
I'm not going anywhere with you. And so do these brothers.
Bah, humbug.
And there's only one way to make it happen.
It's a surprise.
John Schneider, Tom Wopat, and Hoyt Axton.
The spirit of Christmas is back!
Thank you, son.
Christmas comes to Willard.
Thursday night at 7 on Receptive Channel 9.
Happy holiday savings. Mills Fleet Farm has savings for you. Happy holiday quality. Mills Fleet Farm has quality for you.
Don't forget your family pets this holiday. Come to Mills Fleet Farm for items to fill your pet's stocking. We carry a huge assortment of animal supplies. From toys to treats, it's all at Mills Fleet Farm. And it's at everyday low fleet prices.
Happy holiday value at Mills Fleet Farm.
I think Total Raisin Bran tastes better than Kellogg's Raisin Bran.
It does taste better than Kellogg's, and it's more nutritious with 100% of 9 vitamins. But how do we tell people it's the better Raisin Bran?
Hypnotize them. You're getting sleepy. Hungry. Very hungry. Total Raisin Bran tastes better, yes? Yes? The other? You're going to the store.
I'm going to the store.
That's how I tell them Total Raisin Bran's better than Kellogg's.
Buster! Great Houdini, but how are you going to make lunch disappear? Easy. Now you see it. Now you don't.
Detergent alone can't catch all unreported stains. The ones you don't discover till the dryer bakes them in. Try Biz Bleach with your detergent to catch many tough stains before it's too late.
It did disappear. You dumped my powers.
Biz gets the stains to get by you.
Sports Fan Sunday continues here at Champs in Minnetonka. We've covered the NFL, college football, baseball, little basketball with Thurl Bailey. Time now to talk some North Stars hockey, Mr. Gilliland.
Yeah, we went out to the Met Center the other night when the, who was it? Capitol Saturday,
yeah.
but it was...
It was the home and home again.
Yeah, St. Louis. They've gone 3 games without losing a game. And the North Stars, though, have been a little underachieving here since last year's great Stanley Cup playoff. They made it to the finals. I think most people expect them to do a little bit better out of the gate, so we asked some fans out of Met Center, what's wrong?
They're not even, they're not really working hard. We got a lot of loafers, I guess you would put it. Certain players that aren't playing hard, except for like when the games count, like against Chicago or the playoffs. I think they got to make a trade, big trade.
I think they have a lot of potential, and I think the puck just has to start going in the net for them. They're getting a lot of shots on goal, and one of these days it's going to happen.
If you were in charge, if you're the GM, would you do anything differently?
There's a few players I think that are still a little questionable. I like the looks of the new players. The young players look real good. We got a couple veterans that need to dig in a little harder.
I just feel that you're just not getting the breaks. In the Stanley Cup now last year, they got the breaks. Things went the right way. The power plays went right. Where this year the power plays they're just not gelling. They're just not moving the puck the same way as they did last year. But I feel it's going to come. I mean, I've been coming here many years, and sooner or later they're going to start doing it.
Just a lack of hustle. They're just not hustling enough. I think you just got to get get things together, you know, move the puck a little bit better, more consistent. I mean, you think they have everything together going one game, and then the next game they come back out there and, you know, it all goes wrong again. And
they have to start hanging around the front of the net. Everybody's going back in the corner trying to dig it out, and nobody's in front of the net. Put it in. Be an opportunist.
If you were the general manager, what would you do?
I don't know. I'd probably try and move the lines around. Try and get a better line system.
Well, North Stars did play a tough game Saturday night, lost 4-2 at the Met Center. We got blown out tonight at the stadium 7-2. You may have seen that game here on Channel 9. And they're 4 games under 500, so something isn't right there. Maybe they're not as good as they showed in the playoffs last year.
The defense has been a big problem. John Casey, you've seen many times this year, starts wandering around and mishandling the puck behind the net or wanders way too far out and gets burned. Of course, they were hurt by the loss of Mark Tenorti, but that happens. Injuries are certainly part of the game, but the defense has not been there for them yet.
And they haven't really been consistent yet. I mean, you go back to last week, they win at Toronto, come back, tie St. Louis, and win the next night, and you think, hey, maybe they're going to get something going. Then they lose a real devastating game last night to the Caps, and then tonight they're kind of blown away in Chicago. So they need to establish consistency in what has turned into a very good division in hockey.
I think those fan comments, too, answer the question, do they serve hard liquor at Met Center? I don't, you know, this is a team that I'm not that worried about. They're going to be okay. They got good guys at the top in Clark and Gainey. The problem they have is they don't have goal scorers. They don't have the big guys to put the puck in the net and enough big wingers. And I think you'll see some moves made.
Trade could be like forthcoming. They need to do something.
Well, yeah, but I think some of it is that the reality is North Stars have learned that the regular season means almost nothing in the NHL, and I don't think Gainey has convinced them that anything else is the case. They had such a bad season last year, and look where they ended up. And I think they still think there's still a little bit of this feeling, well, we can turn it on when we have to. And you know what?
It's
they
true.
might not be wrong.
It's true. They might not be, but I don't think Norman Green thinks that is true, and he may pull the plug, make a trade if perhaps North Stars don't turn it around. Okay, we got one segment to go. We're going to talk one-on-one with Andy McPhail when we come back on Sports Fan Sunday.
matter what your plans are this holiday season, all the employees at Cub Foods remind you not to drink and drive. I'm Chris Cook. Happy holidays.
Hi, I'm Bobby Jensen from Lindale Garden Center. Here's hoping that this holiday season and all of 1992 is a special time for you and your family.
Hi, it's the holidays, and I'm Ronald McDonald wishing you and your family the best of 1992.
Think about some of your toughest stains, your most difficult, your most painful. For these, you might think of trying a pre-treater. Think again of Era Plus, detergent with stain removers built in. Because if you compare Era Plus and this best-selling pre-treater head-to-head, you're in for a powerful revelation. So when you think of stains, think of this. It's Era Plus or else.
Remember your 4 food groups.
Now, class, for proper nutrition, we must all learn to eat from the 4 food groups. Repeat it with me. The 4 food groups. Again.
Now there's Basic 4 cereal, a delicious blend of wholesome grains, delectably sweet fruits, and crunchy nuts that, with milk, gives you the basic goodness of the 4 food groups. Basic 4 cereal. It's the 4 food groups.
Again.
Like you've never tasted them before.
We're live at Champs in Minnetonka with Sports Fan Sunday. Here's Gilly.
A regular feature of Sports Fan Sunday is going to be our one-on-one interview. Andy McPhail, of course, out of town this weekend at the winter meetings in Florida. One trade made today, Von Hayes leaving the Phillies, going to California for Ruben Amaro Jr. and Kyle Abbott, a pitcher. A semi-major deal there. Twins say they're not interested in making trades, really, but just bringing back the free agents that they can, that they're economically able to do. And here's a little bit more of that with the Twins, General Manager Andrew McPhail.
Where do priorities lie right now? It's been said Morris, Harper, whatever else, and then Kirby Puckett. Do you have your own timetable you can share with us?
Well, you know, timetables aren't totally within our control, so you just do, you know, you try to do the best you can. I think we've probably reached a point where you throw out the priority at this point. You just start talking to all of them, because I think you have to come to the realistic expectation that if you, given where the market has gone to this point and the resources that are available to us, you're not going to bring all 8 of them back, and you just better start finding out who you can and can't bring back and start to bring them in the fold regardless. What we have done, in addition to winning 2 World Championships in 5 years, is we built ourselves a pretty good farm system until the expansion draft comes along and hurts that. But we built ourselves a good farm system. We have what we feel like, you know, and there are always going to be pleasant surprises and disappointments. We feel like we have a lot of good alternatives within our system. And when you've got a Pedro Munoz knocking at the door, you know, it makes it a little bit easier to know that you're going to be a better team the next year, because you've got a young player who's already proven he can certainly hit in this league. I honestly thought for the first time this year that there would be a leveling off process. I didn't think things would go down. But clearly, it's no secret that we can't expect the same national TV contract that we've enjoyed over the past couple years. And most of the clubs that rely on those national TV revenues to a larger degree than some of the bigger markets are ones that really have to be prepared to scale down their operation to a certain degree. And the one thing we've seen so far with the Murray, the Bonilla, Morgan, Candiotti, all these signings, Hershiser's, they've all come out of New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Well, there's no great surprise in that. And they don't have to live and die with those dollars the way we do. Brian's been a heck of an offensive contributor to us. His defense is perfectly adequate within the scope of things in the major leagues today, and we would be pretty silly if we wouldn't want to bring Brian Harper back, I think. There's a certain amount of pride a general manager has when you make a trade that works out. I personally like Danny. He's different. He's good on the club. I'm very happy we made that trade. He's been a great player for us. He replaced, coincidentally, a very popular player, Mickey Hatcher, at the time, which I was getting criticized for, but he went out and did the job, and that, you know, you're a human being as a general manager, you take a certain measure of pride in that. Now, 5 years later, we're confronted with the same type of thing. And we say, we'd like to have you back, Danny. You know, this is the best we can do. And Danny says, I'd like to come back. I truly would. But if somebody goes out and says, Danny, here's $3 million over 2 years to come here, Danny, and we can't do it, and they can, if I was Danny, I'd have to go. There are too many guys behind microphones and guys that write in newspapers and they're fans that you know, your job is to try to improve the club and make an effort every year. There's some years, frankly, where you're better strategically placed than others to make a real run for it. And you have to understand sometimes as general manager which years those are. But you never know. No one was picking us to win from 86. We won in 87. Nobody was picking us to win after 90. We won in 91. I would hate to be a guy who would have to pick the season. You know, I would hate to have to pick a year out because nobody can do it. Nobody's been able to do it with any degree of closeness that I'm aware of. And it's way too volatile. You know, who would have known that California would have finished last? They had a lot of people, they're probably the odds-on favorite to beat Oakland. So who knows? Nobody was, you know, with the exception of one guy out of thousands, nobody picked us to win. We can't have any injuries. We've been remarkably fortunate in that. We've been very healthy. We have to get contributions like we did last year from young players that people didn't know of a year ago. Nobody knew about Scott Leyes or really Knobloch. Erickson was still a little bit of a question mark, and we're going to have to get contributions from guys like that again.
In your own situation, you won 2 titles here. Do you ever feel like, you know, soon or eventually you might want to move on or accept other challenges?
Well, I probably, had that been my bent, I probably could have done something of that nature, you know, just this past fall. And that really, I don't have any desire to do that. I'm a young guy with a lot to learn yet, and I enjoy it here, and I like the people I work for, I like the people I work with, and what's the sense of, you know, it's not always greener on the other side of the hill, so I'm very, you know, happy and content here and try to do the best we can in Minnesota.
Ay, 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 ay. I've got 2 new Mexican flavors.
New flavors.
Nacho cheese and beef taco, hamburger helpers, Mexican flavors.
Take plain hamburgers south of the border with delicious sauces and festive noodles in our great-tasting new Mexican hamburger helpers.
Hamburger helper makes a great Mexican meal.
Nacho cheese and beef taco. Olé!
Presenting a way to make life a lot simpler. The Clapper. Turn on a lamp. Turn on the music. Turn off the TV. Use it anywhere you need a helping hand.
Simple.
Plug it in and insert the plug from just about anything.
Simple. Clap on, clap off. Clap on, clap off. The Clapper.
Give it a big hand.
The Clapper is available at Snyder Drugstores, Walgreens, Pomida, and Woolworth.
All across America, people have discovered a big plus, the wonderful, easy way to remove stains from their teeth. Their smiles are Plus White smiles, thanks to the remarkable product, Plus White. Only Plus White has the special gel formula that works so well it even removes coffee and tobacco stains. Plus White whitens as no toothpaste can. For whiter, brighter teeth and a great smile, the special Plus White formula for the Plus White smile. Get it.
Hot biscuits. Too bad you're cutting down on fat, remember? But hey, those were made with Bisquick Light. They have half the fat and all the taste. New Bisquick Light. Yes! We make it easy to say yes.
The guys from Pop Secret tell me they have big news. They say their kernels pop up bigger, so they're lighter and fluffier. I say they even taste better.
Pop Secret. Perfect popcorn is our passion.
For guests of Sports Fan Sunday, courtesy of Airport Sedan, the Taxi Alternative, and Limousines Limited. Call 341-4141. Call them now if you need a ride home, right, Eric?
We may need a ride home at this late hour. This first edition of Sports Fan Sunday is winding up to a close. We'd like to thank Dan Barrero, Mark Selenovich, and Mr. Barry Williams. We'll see all of you, I'm sure, many times more on this show.
I want to say a good thing is that written transcripts are not available of the show. And I'm going to be in Las Vegas next week. I won't be here. I know you guys think I'll put down some money. George Foreman have another pizza. I think.
Come back with an interview with Tark the Shark.
Okay. Be there in time to make a wager on that Viking Ram game?
But yeah, that's the all-important Viking Ram
The Underachievers Bowl.
We got to go out and meet the boys at the airport, don't we? The Vikings. To congratulate them on their gutty performance.
Would like you to it too?
Yeah, I'm going to a potluck supper with you.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back at 9:30 next Sunday night for the second edition of Sports Fan Sunday, live from Champs in Minnetonka.
Bye-bye.
I've always had a problem talking to anyone about questions I had regarding relationships, finances, love, or anything important. Then I discovered Psychic Advisors, where for only $3.99 a minute, I get the answers I need, anytime, day or night.